Good morning, Poughkeepsie. Oh, this is a fun crowd. Didn't know people got so excited about lead pipes. But apparently we do, because you know how important this is. And I'm so grateful to be able to come back to this great, great city and talking about something that if you're not in local government or a citizen activist, an environmentalist, you don't think about every day, right? You assume that the pipes are fine, you're going to get clean water, the air should be clean. I mean, you certainly take a lot for granted, except you should not. You should not. And I know how important local governments are on the front line of protecting our citizens and ensuring they have clean drinking water, that the pipes that the water is coming to is not contaminated. And so to come back to a city hall like this and to be able to work with local government officials, it takes me back to the world I came from. It was 30 years ago this year that I knocked on, over 2 years, 50,000 doors and was able to persuade people in my town to elect a young woman with a couple of young kids in tow as their council member. So I have worked my entire career steeled in the knowledge that the most powerful, important positions truly are at that local level. When you hear from your neighbors, they come to your meetings. We had no time limits on our meetings, so we'd be there till 1, 2 in the morning, so everybody could say what they wanted, because that was democracy in action. And today, as a result of strong advocates and great elected leaders you have here who are so responsive, we're able to make some very, very positive news. Talking about cleaning up our water lines and everything else we're doing, but it doesn't happen without people like your great mayor. I want to thank the mayor for all she has done to champion the money coming here. I know that when you're putting together your budget and you're looking at increases that are necessary to cover the bonding for a long-term water and infrastructure project, it's a big hit, right, Mayor Flowers? And you're thinking, gosh, if I could just get some help from the state and federal government to get this done so I don't have to put it on the backs of my taxpayers. We heard you, Mayor Flowers. Thank you for being a great champion. Let's give our mayor another round of applause here. And it certainly helps to have a strong voice for you in Albany, and that is your Assembly member, Jonathan Jacobson, who I've worked with for probably a decade now, since I was first became lieutenant governor. I want to thank him for his representation of this issue, how important this was. I know Sue Serino, our county executive here. Didn't see Sue here, okay. We also want to thank Maureen Coleman for joining us, the CEO of the Environmental Facilities Corporation. And I will be proud, so proud, to introduce, in a few minutes, you have to hear from me first, your congressman. I call him the postman because he always delivers. Thank you, Pat Ryan, for all you have done to ensure that this great district that you cherish and love so deeply gets what it deserves, and we'll be talking about that in a couple of minutes. So let me tell you what we're up to here today. We're going to be talking about how important it is to make these investments in our communities, and today we're announcing the city is receiving $12 million for loan forgiveness from the state of New York to offset the cost of replacing your lead pipes throughout the city. And this is just a small... This is a small part of an unprecedented $90 million investment that we announced last month to eliminate lead pipes across New York State once and for all. And I want to say I'm so grateful to the Biden-Harris administration, what they were able to accomplish with the bipartisan, and I will say that twice because you don't hear it enough, the bipartisan infrastructure bill that has bringing dollars that is so essential to every corner of the state of New York in such a short time. We're delivering already. This investment in the bipartisan infrastructure, the Infrastructure Investment and Job Act, has allowed us to be able to be on the path and achieve President Biden's goal to have replaced every single lead pipe in America over the next decade. We can get that done starting right here in Poughkeepsie. And they've not only committed the billions of dollars, they're committing it to underserved communities that have been harder hit and for too long ignored. As I mentioned, it's hard to put together a budget. It's hard to find the resources, and to have this kind of help, to be able to have communities do the proper testing and modernization of their water system. It's a huge, huge effort, but the federal government can take us so far, and then we need some help to get over the finish line. And that's why I'm combining state funds with the federal dollars where costs are not fully covered. And again, working with Congressman Ryan and this community, we have pushed so hard to make sure this happens, to give them the tools they need to take this on. Not just here in Poughkeepsie, I know we're here in Poughkeepsie, but we're doing this in Troy and Syracuse and cities all across the state. And you have to know where I come from to understand why I'm so passionate about this. Very few people in my position get excited about what happens underground. But my town where I served for 14 years, all we focused on was making sure that our water lines and our sewer lines were well maintained and there were no breaks in the lines, there was no flooding, no disruption. We obsessed about this more than anybody would ever understand. So I bring that to me, understanding that we can do so much more if we focus on this. And I grew up in an area, the town of Hamburg, when I was a little child. Lake Erie was our water source. You could see the pollution spewing into Lake Erie from the Bethlehem steel plant. It looked like molten lava every night being it literally glowed in the dark. Now, we swam in that water by day. No one told us how dangerous it was, and that was the water that went to a purified system and into our pipes. And that's what communities were drinking where I was growing up. And top it off, the air was so orange, I didn't know what a blue sky was. I assumed that the sky was supposed to be orange when I was a child, a little girl, because the smokestacks were just building out pollution. So I cannot stand here and not tell you I could not possibly not be a hardcore environmentalist when you come out of that environment and you see that assault on the environment that went on for decades and decades because people were just happy to have the jobs. This was the livelihood for so many of my neighbors and my own family members. Fast forward to 2024. We know the effects. We know how bad this is. But in fact, we've actually known for 200 years that lead pipes are poisonous. And as they corrode, the lead leaches into the water and into our bodies, and it can remain for weeks, if not years. And what it does is it has a health effect. It can result in miscarriages for women. It can result in developmental challenges for young children, everything from learning disabilities to behavioral problems to learning loss to stunted growth. There are some studies that show that up to 20% of ADHD cases are due to lead exposure. But this is frustrating because over 100 years ago, in the 1920s, companies realized this was having an effect. And lead use started to decline. People understood that this was dangerous. There's other places, other materials to replace with. But then you get the powerful lead manufacturers who banded together. And instead of finding alternative solutions, they decided to deal with the problem that was biggest to them, which was their shrinking sales. So they lobbied to make the use of lead mandatory in all urban building codes, guaranteeing their existence forever, right? And it continued up until the 1980s. Think about how crass that was. They could have eradicated the use of lead pipes in our drinking water systems back in the 1920s when they knew there was a problem and they didn't. Today, finally, in 2024, we're saying it's going to be a vestige of the past. We'll no longer be using this and making sure that we clean up the ones that are still in existence. So communities across the nation are still affected by this. We are going to make sure that we fix this problem one last time, but I want to be clear. Our fight for clean water is not just about lead. I've also committed to $2.2 billion in financial assistance over the last year for other water projects, water infrastructure projects across the state, improving sewer systems, enhancing water testing capabilities, and protecting our environment. So these are so important to me because I want to make sure that we can do things in a smart way. Yes, we want to incentivize manufacturing, but we can do it in a clean way that does not contaminate the environment because we want those jobs. We can also improve housing, make sure the pipes and the water coming into our new homes are so important. I want to thank this city for signing up to be a pro-housing community and supporting our efforts to say, we know we have something great and special here, but why shouldn't our children be able to live here as well? That's what I'm talking about, letting your kids and grandkids grow up in the same communities that you were raised in. And the reason we don't is because we didn't build enough housing. Thank you for your courage, man. We also have to keep our streets safe and invest in our natural resources and protect all families, regardless of income or geography. So what it comes down to is just focusing on not just today, but the future. We only wish that people 100 years ago had done the same. But I know because of our decisions here today, the resources we're bringing and the support from the federal government and great partners like Pat Ryan and President Biden and the Harris administration, I want to thank them for having the vision to say that, no, localities know this should be done, but it's too expensive. I will be there on behalf of the people of the state of New York to say, this is a new day in New York. We will do better. We'll focus on not just today, but the future generations to come who will be grateful when they look back at this day, this moment in time, and say, we finally turned the page. No more lead in our pipes. We're taking it out of the ground. And I want to thank all of you who have been part of this great story. Congratulations. This would not have happened without the strong advocacy of your Congressman, Pat Ryan. He was there. He was there to make sure that this legislation got through, but not just got through, but quickly got into the hands of the local governments, which is exactly what today's announcement is all about. So that's who you need in Washington. That's who I support, my great friend, Pat Ryan. Let's give a round of applause to our Congressman, Pat Ryan.
Good morning. I just got an alert that my home alarm system went off, so I think everything's okay, but life always never leaves us without surprises. So if I have to grab my phone, it's because of that. I apologize.
I can keep an eye out.
That's the kind of governor you want. And I apologize for that segue. Governor, thank you so much for being here. You've been from the beginning, because of the roots you talked about in local government, somebody that shows up, comes back with significant funding and resources for our city and for the whole Hudson Valley. So please join me in one more round of applause for Governor Kathy Hochul. Thank you. You're going to hear from my great colleagues, Jonathan Jacobson, who I'll introduce in a moment. And I especially want to shout out and maybe slightly embarrass, in a good way, Mayor Flowers, in a good way, and the whole council. This is a BFD, as they say, to have $12 million coming to the city of Poughkeepsie for something that has been such a challenge and plague that I know, Megan Dykler on the city council has been working on this for a long time. The whole council has been working on this for a long time. One of the central issues of Mayor Flowers' campaign was really making sure we bring the full urgency to the problem. Unfortunately, Poughkeepsie, across the state and the country, has one of the highest levels of these lead service lines, and that is unacceptable. And so I remember sitting with a lot of people in this very room, about a year-ish ago, with great colleagues we brought the federal EPA here directly. We brought the state DEC, who we greatly appreciate their support, and we said, we have to fix this. We have to do the work to make sure in this next round of federal funding and state funding that's coming, that we get what Poughkeepsie is owed, that we get what the citizens and residents, and especially the kids. I mean, so much of this comes, especially for me as a dad, the idea that my kids could go to school and be drinking from the water fountain and I have to worry about that, or that I turn on the faucet at home and I have to worry about that. That's not who we are, certainly as a city here, and I would argue it's not who we are as a country. I think this is a core issue really of freedom, which I talk a lot about. I mean, the freedom to just have clean water and breathe clean air and have clean soil to grow our food and like that should be an agreed upon thing in the United States of America in 2024 that should not be partisan. And that takes us all coming together to really, really do the work. So I'm super proud to have had a very small part in this. I'm way more proud of the kick-ass team here in Poughkeepsie who really is stepping it up. And the residents of the city now, we got a lot more work to do. But there was $100 million across the state allocated for this, and Poughkeepsie got $12 million of it. That's huge. That's huge. So sorry for my slight colorful language, but I'm excited and I'm proud. So again, I want to thank the mayor for her leadership on this. I'm going to bring up Jonathan and in a moment, and especially want to thank again Governor Hochul. It's easy to kind of make promises and make pledges, and this is something that you also have been very clear about from the beginning, Governor Hochul, in terms of addressing environmental justice more broadly across our community. So I want to thank you for that. Before my alarm goes off again on my phone, I'll pass the mic. You can call Jonathan many things. I would say relentless, tenacious, and very straightforward as well, as you all know, working closely with Jonathan. That's what it takes to get this over the line. He was in that meeting as well with a lot of you, and we all said this is unacceptable, and this is what it should look like. Government at every single level, great nonprofit partners and community partners, all working together, not being partisan or political, but really just operating to get the job done. Jonathan's been such a key part of that on a bunch of issues, including this one. So please give a loud round of applause for Assemblyman Jonathan Jacobson.
Governor, great to see you. Great to see you come here on this issue, because unfortunately my district has been impacted greatly by this historical problem of lead-contaminated water lines here and also in Newburgh. Pat, Congressman Ryan, it is so great to have you as a partner in all the things that we've been advocating, from Central Hudson to this. And it was a year ago, in July, that, as Pat mentioned, he convened a meeting of representatives of the EPA and the State Department of Health, because the EPA sends the money to the state, but the Department of Health then distributes it. And that was very important. And so important to that because while I can try to make a lot of noise, it's a big deal when you have the congressman making the noise. You know, he gets more press, and he's been able to do things and use his position to do so much good for the people in this district. There's no acceptable level of lead in drinking water. I don't care that the EPA moved it from 15 some parts to 10 parts per billion. There is no acceptable level of lead in drinking water. We know that lead contamination is a serious health hazard that causes developmental disorders in children, as well as cardiovascular and fertility issues in adults. That's why I've long advocated for increased funding. I was successful in getting more money initially for the lead service line replacement, and I've been pushing more for that. And Governor, you can be assured I'll be pushing more for the budget this year. But that's my job, and that's what we're all here for. And then after that meeting, I helped facilitate the application that Poughkeepsie went right away because they had a strict deadline by the end of August, and they complied with that. It's so important that we have this money and that we follow through. We cannot fail another generation of children in Poughkeepsie or in any other city. And so I am hopeful with this new administration, new mayor, Yvonne Flowers, the council, the new administrator, all of whom I've known for years and are my friends, that Poughkeepsie can turn the page from past administrations and meet its responsibility to get the lead out from all water in Poughkeepsie. And I believe that this would be a legacy that we all could be proud of, and I commit myself to working with everybody here in Poughkeepsie and in Albany to make sure that this is done. So I'd like to now, it's my honor to introduce the mayor, who all of you know has brought a new breath of fresh air to the mayor's office, a new sense of urgency, a new sense of energy, which was really desperately needed in this city. So without further ado, let's hear from and give it up for Mayor Yvonne Flowers.
Now I'm blushing. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Governor, for taking the time out to be here. And thank you for expressing how things were when you were growing up in your hometown. Now we fully understand your dedication of why this is so important to make sure that our environment is safe for all across the country. So thank you for that commitment that you're making for now cities across our state to ensure that that is done. And I want to thank our Congressman, Pat Ryan, for all the work that you have done. You have been with me from day one, and you have been there encouraging me and giving me, the tools and the resources that I need to be able to do this job efficiently. And anything that you can do for me on the federal level, you have been there to help me. So I appreciate that so much. And for our Assemblyman, Jonathan Jacobson, you're always here. You're always here. We're at events together. You're like, come on, let's go. You got to go meet this person. So thank you also. I cannot do this job without you. And so I appreciate you all for being here and giving us the tools and resources that we need to do what we need to do in this city to make it right. So thank you so much. Thank you all for coming out. And I have to say, I want to thank Governor Hochul and her administration for their tremendous efforts on this critical, important public health issue. The city must replace thousands of lead pipes throughout our city that will reduce our residents from the risk of lead poisoning. The city recognizes it cannot complete this work without the strong state and federal partners who can assist us with the financial resources. We are committed to continuing this work, recognizing that it's a long process and that it would require additional funds as they become available. I also want to thank Congressman Ryan for stepping up to help us to address this concern. Congressman Ryan invited Federal Environmental Protection Agency representatives and state health department officials to meet with us to discuss funding sources and what is needed to be eligible for the lead pipe replacement grants. We took the advice that was given to us, and also being able to go up to Washington on a couple of visits and also to Albany, we were able to get the tools that we need so that our staff can aggressively start applying for grants. And because of all that help and resources that we received, we became eligible to receive this current funding. So I want to thank you for that. And I know this was brought up before, but this is how government should work. It should be that we're all coming together on our local, state, and our federal government, communicating on what needs to be done to make headway on our most complicated issues. And I'm hoping that we continue to have this kind of collaboration on many other issues that we face, especially in this city. Today, I stand here with the members of the Common Council and the members of our city team in gratitude for the assistance that we are receiving today. We vow to stay committed to replacing the lead pipes and doing it in the most responsible way possible. I do want to caution the public that it would be a time-consuming process. The city has about 6,200 service lines with lead pipes, and about 5,000 of them are residential. We are inventorying our lead pipes, and we need substantial resources in the long term to complete that job. We are planning strategically on how we're going to move forward with the allotted money for the lead pipe replacement, and we will continue to aggressively seek more funding to ensure that our children, that our families have clean water. I appreciate the state making these allocated funds easier by converting more money to grants and payments that money that we would not have to pay back, opposed to the interest-free loans that we were told before. This would also reduce the cost to our taxpayers. So this major announcement is great news for the city of Poughkeepsie, and I truly thank Governor Hochul and our Congressman Pat Ryan for your efforts in helping us to improve the quality of life in our city and helping us find ways to have clean water for our residents. So thank you so much. So I'm the last speaker, so I'm not introducing anyone. So I guess I'm just going to tell you, thank you all for coming out and supporting us. This is a community effort. We're all going to have to come together, like I said, not only to deal with making sure that we have clean drinking water, but also making sure that our families have other, challenges that they have to face, and we have to come together to be able to deal with that. So thank you so much for coming out, and I'm going to turn it back over to the governor's staff. See where to go for there, but again, we do appreciate everyone coming out today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you once again for attending this great program. This concludes our program. Please feel free to make your way towards the exits. Thank you for attending.